since then.
I know that we were just talking off camera about how much has changed in the last 3 months since we talked to you last. Are there any major advancements that really come to mind that you want to, start with?
A lot of changes have happened. I mean, these changes are happening by the week. We have the old adage, like, that was so 2 weeks ago, because things are happening so fast. But I would say from a Gen AI perspective, we've seen a lot of advancements with things like video. We call it multimodal, when you have things like text, video, pictures, some of the things we were talking about. But the ability to create graphics now that look very human-like, almost, frankly, you could even mimic me as a Gen AI, image that saying things I never actually said. That is so much easier to produce now, and it's becoming a lot easier even still.
Yeah, there are sometimes you're scrolling on social media, you really have to check, double check, triple check sometimes to see what the source is, to see if it's at all manipulated by AI.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest issues right now, is those types of technologies are really eroding trust in AI, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And since your last appearance, I know that AI Squared, you guys have raised about $14 million to accelerate AI adoption within organizations. What does that mean?
So what we specifically do is we take existing applications that companies may have, and we inject AI into it. So we make it really easy for them to get all of what we just discussed, the power of AI into an older application.
Okay. Yeah. And so also, in all of the headlines when it relates to AI, one Anthropic CEO said that nearly half of all entry-level white-collar jobs could be wiped out in the next 5 years, specific to AI and the development and the advancements. What is your response to that, and how are you making sure that that doesn't happen within your own company?
Yeah, I mean, it is true. AI is changing. It could have the possibility to change many jobs, if not every job. But I also think about this as just being another one of those inflection points in human history. If you think back just a few years ago, well, many years ago, when we went from horses to cars, right? That changed jobs. People who were once blacksmiths became, mechanics, for example. The types of things we ended up selling, gas, repair services. We built roads, which changed the way we lived in cities. I think that's very similar to what's going on here now. I think specific to what we're seeing, the jobs that are really being impacted today are what I would consider to be knowledge worker jobs. These are jobs like coders, developers, definitely changing the way they go about developing, but it doesn't replace it. I think to your question, it's still really important to have the human in the loop. Have the human at the end to be able to review the insights, make sure that they trust it before they push it out.
Yeah, no, super important. And I know that you talked comparing kind of just different advancements. What do you predict might be the next big positive leap with AI? I know that we're seeing it just so quickly advance.
Yeah, the big thing that I think we're all talking about now is what we call agents. And agents, think about them as like digital workers, like things that people would do, but now you can do it with AI. And that replaces, if you think about anything you do, making a recipe, going to the store, clicking, all those steps, those are all replaced by these little robots, digital robots, if you will, that will be able to do all of that for you. So it basically makes your life a lot more efficient. It reduces the time you spend on these tasks, makes it a lot more accurate as well.
Okay, so we see the innovation and how it might be applied to health. We also heard from the CEO of Google's AI research, DeepMind, saying the bigger concern really is if the tech falls into the wrong hands, lack of guardrails. What is that conversation like?
Yeah, I think that's also happening right now too, unfortunately. I think in the case of cybersecurity, you've got all the positive advancements, real-time detection, making sure that our networks are better, more resilient than ever. But on the other side, the AI is also powering the attack. So, state-sponsored, foreign enemies, for example, are looking at ways to penetrate networks, company networks, our government's network. That's all happening with AI as well. And it's true. I think the regulations are far behind where we actually are because the innovations are moving so very quickly.
Yeah. Is it a challenge for you all to keep up with things that are changing moment by moment?
It's a challenge. Just staying on top of the trends is already a challenge, but to come up with, the ability to respond, very, very difficult. It requires a lot of super smart people, and thank goodness they're out there, but they're also harder to get because they're now being snatched up by these larger tech companies as well. So it is absolutely a challenging time.
All right, it is indeed. To see more interviews like this one and these thoughtful conversations, watch ABC7 at 7. It streams live weekdays.